Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from AlexMercedCoder.dev, and Merry Christmas Eve here on December 24th. And in this video, what I'm going to do is just kind of like a follow-up to my video series where we created a React app using React Router 6.4. Again, a lot of what's going on in React Router 6.4 with the data APIs or the data routers is very much inspired by the work that the same people did on RemixJS. So I thought I would try to create like since it's Christmas, a Christmas list app, real quick with Remix. I've never actually built a full app with Remix before. I've played with it in the past. I've done some videos just kind of going over the basics. So this is gonna be a new experience for both of us. So, and again, I like doing that once in a while just because that way you get to see me go through mistakes and see my process for figuring out mistakes. Because I think there's a lot to be learned from that because that's oftentimes where we get stuck, thinking about how do I approach the place that I'm stuck. So I'm going to open up VS Code. I'm going to open up a new folder, open folder, in the right spot. Let's make a folder for I want to make a new folder, open folder, open there, Remix app. Let's open that folder in my VS Code. Okay, and let's get started. Let's first see what the command is to just get started. So it's going to be npx create remix add latest. I don't want this particular tutorial. What if I just want to, or actually we'll just do npx create remix. We'll just do that. Okay, so npx create remix at latest. Okay, it wants me to install the thing. That's fine with me. Okay. Give that a second to install and set up. But actually, let me go look at the docs real quick. Your first route. Okay, and again, this is going to be like if you ever use like Next.js or whatnot, it's going to use file-based routing. So instead of me having to define all my routes like I did with React Router, where I had like that router.js file, here I should be able to just pass files and it should recognize my files as routes, which is pretty nice. I'll give that a second to do the thing. Okay. I will pause that while it finishes scaffolding. Okay, so it got through like the initial process, and just so you know what some of the options I chose, I just chose the default for like the server location. I chose just the Remix server, just a standard Remix server. There's a bunch of other options depending on where you plan on deploying. I'm not deploying this video, so I'm using a plain vanilla Remix server. And then I chose JavaScript. And then here I am. Do you want me to run npm install? Yeah, let's do that for me. That would be cool. Okay, so now it's creating my app. It's doing all the stuff. And okay, we got our folder structure here, so we can start looking at it. Okay, so we got our public folder, which is generally going to be in anything you use, like the static folder, the place where you can share static assets. And then we're going to have our app folder where we can define our routes. Okay, so here's where we can define our routes. So this would be the root route. Okay, so essentially every route's going to be based on the name of the file. And then each file can then handle, basically the way it works in Remix is that basically you can export 3 things inside of any route. Okay, you can export a component. Okay, which in this case you're export defaulting this function, and that's going to essentially be what you render as a page if a GET request is sent to that route. Okay, then you have a loader. So you might remember from the React Remix lesson, the idea of the loader is it's a function that renders before, that runs on the server, in this case on the server, before that route renders. And then, so you can do server-side logic there before the page loads. Okay, then there is actions. Actions will only run if it's a non-GET request. So put, post, delete, any of those kinds of requests will happen that go to that route will be handled in there. And instead of you specifying like whether it's a GET, put, or post, you can use the request object to kind of like drill down from there. So you can be like, if the request method is put, do this. If the request method is delete, do that. That kind of thing. So essentially, every function or every file that's a route, you can decide again what happens depending on whether it's an action, a component, or a loader. So that's sort of going to be the semantics here. Okay, again, you have some files that are just for setup. So like this is what setups the server, the client side. So this is what hydrates the page. And then we have the server. this is what sets up the server side. Because again, the difference between using Remix versus using React Router is that React Router does everything on the client side. So when we're using actions and loaders in React Router 6.4 and above, all that's happening in the client. So basically that loader runs before the client is rendered, but it still runs client side. The action is what, when the form gets submitted, but happens on the client side. Here, everything's, those actions and loaders run on the server, which means we could actually put our database logic in there. So instead of having to have a separate API where I define, an index route where I have to define like this logic twice in a sense, or define an index route that gets all the things, and then have to define a loader that makes a request to that API route, I can just kind of do it in one place. So that's sort of like the benefit of in using Remix, okay? And then again, you're using that sort of nice, sort of like old school web standard focused style instead of having always kind of reinvent the wheel. Okay, it's leaning into sort of web tradition and standards. So let's do that. Okay, so let's take a look at what commands would start this up. Okay, so this would start up the development server. And then here it gets into deployment. Not something we have to worry about right now. We're not going to deploy this. But let's do this. npm start. Oh, I'm in the wrong folder. cd my remix app npm run dev actually. Okay, and then we're going to want to open that somewhere over here. It's on port 3000, so let's head over to localhost 3000. Okay, and essentially that's your startup page. Okay, so now what I'm going to want to do, okay, is create, I'm not going to use a database this time around. I'm just going to use just sort of a built-in array. So I'm just going to create a new file, or let's create a new folder. We'll call it models. And then we'll create our GIFs model, new file, GIFs.js. Okay, so the idea is that you can track, so your wish list. Okay, so these are GIFs that you want. Okay, so we'll say const GIFs is going to equal an object. And in that object, we have a property called data. So that's going to be the actual data on the GIFs, which will be an array. So again, we're just going to use an array. And I'll just put a couple starter GIFs. So we'll say, title AWS gift card. Okay, and value, we'll say 300. Okay, and then we'll just add a couple more. Okay, we'll say a year of Netlify. Again, we'll just use the same number. Okay, and a bunch of premium React components. Okay, so there's our GIFs. Okay, so I defined this object. Now I'm going to define a bunch of functions so we can like work with this object. Okay, so I'll just kind of define these right off the bat. So GIFs. So we're going to have like GIFs.getAll is just going to equal a function that literally just return this.data. Okay, GIFs.getOne equals a function which we're going to pass in the ID, and then it will return this.data, passing in the ID. Okay, then we'll define GIFs.update, which will equal a function that takes in the update ID in the update. And essentially what it's going to do is take this.data ID and say it equals the updated object, and then return this.data. Okay, and then we'll have GIFs.delete, which will equal a function that takes in an ID. Okay, and then it'll take this dot data. Actually, what's going to do is take this dot data dot splice, starting with that the ID, and pass and remove one item, and then return this dot data. And I forgot create, so gifts dot create equals a function that takes in the new gift, and then basically takes this dot data dot pushes in the new gift, and then returns this dot data. Okay, so there we go. Let's export this. Export default gifts. Okay, so that's just to kind of simulate like you're working with a database model. It isn't. It's literally just an object with an array and some methods. But the idea is that it should feel like if you were using like something like a SQLize or a Mongoose to interact with your data, the place where you're storing your data. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to follow sort of the same pattern I kind of did before, where basically you have really two actual routes. You have your index and your show route. So we're going to have our main page, which is going to end up being this index.js, okay, which we're just going to kind of empty out. Okay, and then this page should end up loading that data beforehand. So let's go take a look at how like loaders work when you're doing this in Remix. Okay, so I'm going to head over to the loader part of the documentation. Okay, and all I have to do is just export a function called loader. Okay, so we see the example here. So and then we're going to use that use loader data hook again. Okay, except now we're importing it from Remix instead of from React Router. Okay, so I'm going to say export default, no, not export default, export async function loader. Okay, I don't really think I need any like params or the request or anything like that right now. Okay, and all I want to do is, I should import gifts. So I am going to import gifts because we are going to use that. Import gifts. And what we're going to do is, actually, should the return value be the data itself? Yep, return users. So we'll just return gifts.getAll. Okay, cool. And let's import that use loader data. Import use loader data. There we go. And now I can pull in that data. So const gifts equals use loader data. Okay, simple as that. Okay, so that's pretty easy. So this is going to happen on the server side. So you can imagine that if I was using like Mongo or SQLize to access a SQL database, I could put all that database logic in here because this code doesn't run in the client. So that means that's not going to necessarily be visible to the client. Put all my database logic here. Okay, then make that, then again I can use that data over here, as long as I bring in that data using the use loader data hook. Okay, so now I could do something like this. I can just say, hey, h1 my gift list, and then say gifts.map. So actually put this inside of a UL. Gifts.map. And then we're going to map is for each gift. Let's just return right now an li with the key, which is going to equal the index, which we'll get the index in a moment. So I'm going to change this a little bit to gift index. So it's an li, and then each li will just say the gift's name. Gift dot, I think it's gift dot title. Okay, let me just double check. It was gift dot title. Yeah. Okay, simple as that. I should be able to see those gifts now on the screen. Oh, you define a loader route, but didn't return anything from your loader function. Let's refresh that. Yep, there we go. AWS gift card, your Netlify, a bunch of premium React components. So, huzzah, that worked. Okay, now what we want to do is render a page for each. So generally there's going to be a specific way I'm going to want to name my file in order to use params. So let's take a look at how you do that specifically in React Remix. So let's see here. It should be under something like called like dynamic routes or something like that. It's probably going to be up here. Enter that client, route file naming. Here we go. Okay, dynamic route parameters. Okay, so you're going to basically do it with a $sign here. Okay, because I know it's like in Next.js is like square brackets. I've seen other ones where it's parentheses. I've seen different conventions. So in this case, it's a $sign. We put a $sign in the front of the name. Okay. So in that case, what we could do is we'll create a folder called GIFs, new folder called GIFs, and in there we'll have a file called id.js. Actually, we'll call it id.jsx. Okay, and this should end up handling a few different things. So it's going to end up handling our when we delete the thing, it's going to end up handling when we update a thing, and the show page for a thing. So this should be a bit of code here. Right now, let's just focus on that show functionality of just being able to display a particular thing. Okay, and so in that case, what I want is we're going to first export our loader. So export an async function. That's going to be the loader. I am going to probably want params. I'm assuming that it's going to work like other. So use params will be the hook to get the, but we're not going to need the params in the client. We just need them in the loader. So yeah, I can deconstruct params. So just like it should be exactly like React Router. So okay, params. Okay, why? Because I'm going to want to return gift, which I'm going to need to bring in gifts. So there it is. Return gifts.getOne, and then I'm going to want to pass in params.id. Okay, and that's going to give me my one gift. So again, that would be where I would like go fetch the particular thing from like Mongo or from my database of any kind. Okay, and then we can actually create the component. So export default, a function which we'll call show. Okay, I don't need really props or anything, but we are going to want to use that loader data. So I'm going to say const gift equals the result of our loader, use loader data. So that's going to end up equaling the gift. And then what we can do is we can return a div. In that div, we'll display the item. Okay, so it'll be like gift.name. Okay, and then we'll have an h2 with price, which is going to equal gift.value. And actually, it's not gift.name, it's gift.title. Okay, so that should start it out. So there we go. And see how simple that was? Okay, I can go fetch the data in the loader and then show it here on this page. So now I need is like links. So let's go import a link component. I'm going to assume it's from the same library. Maybe not. Let's try here. Import link. Oh, yep, there it's right here. No, it's just one link. Here we go. Link from Remix. I always want to import the Remix version. Okay, now we can use this. So again, each of these LIs should be a link. So I'll wrap these in a link tag, which means I'm going to have to move that key prop. Control X, put that closing link tag right over here. And I'm going to move that key prop right over here. Okay. Cool. So now each of them should be a link, but I didn't actually put a 2 in that link, so we need to do that. So 2 equals, we want that to be dynamically generated, so it should be /gifs/index. So that way it links to that dynamically. And let's try that out. So if I refresh this, Okay, it looks like they're not links, but let's see what happens if I click on them. Why are they not links? Li to let's see if I do like shift refresh. Take a look over here. Do I see links in my elements tag? Link rel, no, not there. Div, my UL. I see the LIs, I don't see the links. So I must have imported the wrong link tag. So let's consult the documentation. Link, here, the link component. Yeah, that's what I imported. Link from Remix React. Yep, that's what I did. Okay, so it's complaining because I duplicated the import from the same library, so let's just do this so it doesn't give me that warning. Okay, and again, let me just examine this. It's a link with a line. Yeah, that should work. Let's see here. Let's examine why that may not be the case. What I'm going to do is I'm going to restart the server. Sometimes that can be the deal. It just maybe they didn't recompile it correctly. So if I refresh now, interesting. It's like ignoring that link tag there, even though it is imported to. Okay, let's consult the documentation in case I'm using it wrong. Link to, that looks correct. Dashboard. That all looks fine and good to me. Putting this in the wrong spot gives. Let's do a test here. Link to slash gifs slash 1 just to see if that works. Test link. And do I see it? I don't see it. Interesting. So here we go. Rebuilding. So build shared chunk. And it's index.jsx, line 14. Not resolve. Something's going wrong in the build. I'll start it one more time. That doesn't look like it's my code that's the problem. Okay, that looked good. So let's bust the cache. I should be able to just stop this and delete this cache folder. And it'll recreate it. Okay, let's see here. Still. Oh, actually, let me do this. Shift. Interesting. Index, line height, h1. Ah, I see. This import came funny. This should be importing from at Remix React. Yeah, that's what's causing the problem. Okay, there we go. Okay, let's go back to the main page. Okay, everything's working. Don't always trust the auto imports. They're not always your friend. Okay, so we got that. So yeah, so this works now. Price 300. So see, pretty straightforward. So now we just want to create the ability to create a new gift. So that we would want to do on the main page. So first off, I want to create an action that's going to do that. Okay, so we're going to add a form, and we're just going to submit to that same route. So it's just, we're not going to have a separate route that'll just submit to slash. So in that case, I could just, export async function, and I think we just call it action. So let's just double check the documentation. Yep, we just export action, and then we're also going to want like a redirect function there. So we'll might as well go grab that now. Redirect. Okay, I am going to want the request because we want to get the form data. So it's again like React Router if you watch that video where we're going to get the request.form data. Okay, so I want to get const form data, which is going to equal await request.form data. That gets us the form. And then we just say gifts.create. And then we're going to pass in a new gift title, which is going to be form data.get title. And then it's going to be value. It's going to equal form data.get value. Okay, because again, we're getting the data from the form, and again, we grab that form data map from the request object, and then when that's done, I'm just gonna we're gonna return redirect, and we're gonna redirect them back to that main route. Okay, so that's what's gonna happen. I'm also gonna need the form component for a form. So now I can just inject a form somewhere. So I will, below this UL, we'll have an H2, which says make new gift. Okay, and then we're going to say form. And again, if I don't specify anything in here, I do want to specify method, show that it's not a get request. So I'm going to do a post method so that way it hits the action. As long as it's not get, it will hit that, it'll hit the request above. Okay, or that action. So now let's do this request form method. We just want an input of type equals text whose name is title, and we want an input of type number whose name is value, and then we want a submit button, which I'll just use a button tag. Create gift. Okay, so I have that. And now if I refresh the page, didn't update again, so let's go take a look at the terminal for what it's complaining about now. Did it do something funky again with the imports? No. So no error matching export node modules. Import redirect. Okay, so I might be importing that from the wrong spot. So let's see where redirect comes from. From redirect node. Okay. Good to know. So let's take redirect out of there. And we're going to import redirect from @remix run node. Okay. So now let's see if that loads now. Good. See, now it's updating. Okay, and then we'll just say, hey, the gift is cheese, valued at 30 bucks. Hey, create gift. Okay. I'm not sure if it created a gift. So I refresh, it doesn't look like it did. Okay, so let's examine why. You see here it hit data routes. This form should submit. So let's just first determine if the action is actually running. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to want a console log gifts afterwards. Cheese 30. Okay, that's submitted. Let me see if I see the console log here. There's gifts, and cheese was added. Okay. So my assumption is probably like the state is restarting, so it's creating a whole new gifts each time. So we're not having we're having a shared state issue. because it is doing the thing. So we can see here, I'm doing that console log, and then afterwards we see the cheese. So let me think about how we can simulate that in here. Because let's do another test. Let's just see if my theory is right. If I console log gifts in here, let's see if I still end up getting just 3 items. So refresh. I go to the console, see I get 3 items. If I do cheese 30, see I still get 3 items. Okay, so it's adding it on the server, but it looks like basically in each request it's going to go through that process. Let me think about that one for a second. Okay, yeah, I think we're gonna probably have to use Mongoose. So let's see here. Let me think about how I want to do that. So I'm gonna pause, set that all up, and then we'll come right back. Okay. Okay, I set up my database credentials. So let's npm install Mongoose. Okay, so that's installed, and now what I'm going to do is redo this whole gifts deal. So we're going to have to import Mongoose from Mongoose, and then what we need to do is declare the database URL const database URL equals process.env.database URL mongoose.connect. Actually, I want to do this as a function, so I could, because sometimes these frameworks always run into some funky issues when you try to have one persistent connection. So we're gonna just say, you know, connect, call it gift connection equals. I don't have to pass anything in there. Okay, and we're just gonna say mongoose.connect database URL mongoose.on it's mongoose.connection.on open console.log connected. Okay, we'll just leave it at that for now. Okay, and then I fix that function gift connection, and then I'm going to declare my model. So actually, I'll just do this the quick way. Return model gift, and then the schema will just be new. This should be mongoose. Oh, okay, I already imported it for me. New mongoose.schema. Okay, and again, title string and value number timestamps true. Okay, there we go. And then we'll export default gift connection. Okay, so that's going to handle that. Now let me just go update my index route first. Okay, so in this case we're going to import gift connection. And essentially now the way these functions are going to work is first off, const gift equals gift connection. And then we can do return await gift dot find find all GIFs. There's not going to be any GIFs there right now, so that's fine. And then here, this would become, we would copy over the GIF connection, because again, we're establishing the connection first. That's going to return the model. Okay, and then there would be gift.create. That's fine. Form data. And then I think we should be good. Okay, I guess we can get rid of this now. Okay, let's try that out. So let's run this. npm run dev. I think we should be back up and running. Okay, so let's go back to the Remix app. Let me refresh. Okay, so far that looks good. It loaded. Okay, now let me try making a thing. Okay, so cheese for 30 bucks. Okay, cannot overwrite GIF model once compiled. Ah, okay, I know what I gotta do to fix that. Oh, I gotta refer to what I've done in a different build. So let's go head over to tuts.AlexMercedCoder.dev. Let's go look up my next tutorial where I handle this very specific thing. Next full stack, here we go. Just one line of code I need from here. This is why it's good to write blogs, because sometimes you have to refer to that old code. And it's exactly this what I need. Okay. So we will do that. Okay. So essentially, what I want to do, all I want to do is just change here. Instead, return mongoose.model.gift. If that already exists, just use that, or return define it from scratch. Okay, that's because it's a models. Because the idea is that every time you create a model, it gets saved in this object. And what's weird is that that just will make sure I'm not redefining that model every time. Because basically it's going through that. In that case, I am running that function every time, but in this situation, I didn't. And I was running into this situation with Next where I kept trying to run, it was running the entire database code each time. So I had to like check for that. Okay. So back to application error. Let's go back here. And let's do cheese, 30 bucks. Okay, that worked. Yes. Okay, now if I create like a board for 30 bucks, haha, and if I click on it, oh, okay, but right now I'm still using the index for our links, so I gotta fix that. Because now we're using the database, and the database doesn't work based on indexes anymore, it works based on the database ID. So instead of using index here, I want to use gift._id, and then instead of index here, I want to use gift._id, the mongoose ID property. So that way it links to the one with the right ID. So let's go back. And if I click on cheese now, oh, that's right, I gotta update the show route. Show route, we haven't, we gotta go update that. The loader here. So let me import gift connection. Okay. Okay, so const gift equals gift connection. Okay, and then this will become gift dot find by ID, and then we're going to want to await that now. Okay, cool. So now we have the ability to, we have index, show, and create going. We can create a gift, but now I want to make it where we can update that GIF on the same page. If I refresh this, see now it loads just fine. But I want to be able to update that same item on this page, so I'm going to create a form. So I can literally just kind of copy the same form that I have from over here because it'd be the same layout. So I'll just do that. We'll just have another we'll have an H3 that says update thing, update gift. I will paste the form. I'll just make sure I import the form. And then we're also going to need to import redirect in a moment. Okay, and I want to make sure that this form starts with the existing values. So I'm going to change the default value to equal gift.title. You don't use the value prop because then you run into that React issue where you basically freeze the form. So you're going to use this default value prop, which allows you to set that default value. Gift.value. Okay, so that form is all set. Now let's just start setting up our action. Export async function loader, no, action in this case. And I am going to want the params, and I am going to want the request. So right now, really all I care about is I want to just check one thing. Console request.method. I want to see if that actually gives me what I think it's going to give me. Okay, so that's post. This is, I want to see actually if I make this put, will it detect that? So let's try that out. Okay, so here we are on the cheese page. I'm going to submit this, create gift. Oh, I got to return something, but did I get the console log though? So let's see here. Yes, okay, we do get the method. Okay, I do see the console log, so I can then proceed the way I was going to proceed. Okay. So, basically what's going to happen, regardless of what happens, I'm going to redirect. So I want to return, redirect, and it's going to just redirect back to, actually no, it won't be, it'll depend on the situation. So we'll just start off with a switch. And it's going to be based on whether the request.method is put or delete. Okay, so in the case where it is put, what I'm going to want to do, and then either way, yeah. Then what I'm going to do is const form data equals await request.form data. And then we're going to await, oh, we got to do the GIF connection either way, so let me go do that beforehand. I'll just copy that line from up here. So we're going to establish again, get that model out of the way. Then we're going to do the update, gift dot find by ID and update, which then we pass in the param. Okay, so that's going to be params.id. And then we pass in the updated object. So it's going to be a new object with a title property, which is going to equal the form data.get title. And it's going to equal the value, which is going to be the form data.get value. But again, that's got to be a string. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so I have that. That generates, that's going to do what I need to do. And then after that, I can return and redirect them back to the same page. So return redirect. Okay, and then the redirect is going to be to /gifs /params.id. Okay, and then we're gonna have another situation in case it's a delete. And if it's a delete, then we're going to await gift.find by ID and remove, pass in params.id. Okay, except now we're going to return them to the main page because that page should not exist anymore if that thing's been deleted. So it'll just be slash to just slash. And then so this will just use normal quotes. No need to have it be evaluated. Okay, perfect. And then we just need a default case. And the default case will just be redirect back to the main page. So for some reason, some other requests goes there, it'll just send them back to the main page. Okay, there we go. So that's our action. Okay, so that way I can handle put and delete from the same route. Because I want to have this make a put request this form, but I'm going to want to have this form handle a delete. So I'm going to change this one to delete, and then we just change this to delete gift. Okay, and again, either one, since they're both not a get request, will hit this action, and then using the request.method, I can determine how I want to handle that. Okay, so you see, like in just 2 files, I have pretty much full CRUD, and I have all my code back end and front end, and just really like 2 files and maybe 3 files if you connect what we defined GIF connection. Okay, so now let's try this out. Let's see if I can update this. So I want to say call this cheese2. I hit create gift. That worked. It got updated. Now let's see if I can delete it. And look, cheese has been deleted. We have full CRUD. I can create the thing. I can update the thing. I can delete the thing. I can see the full list of things. I can go see a thing individually. And that's how you would do it with Remix. Okay. And it wasn't that difficult, and it was pretty quick. I mean, we did this in about 45 minutes. We did full CRUD. Now I could just sit back and like style the thing and do what it takes to make it pretty. But as you can see, like because you have everything in one place, Remix makes it pretty easy to do like a full stack application like this, which makes it very, very nice. Okay. Other frameworks like this, again, Next.js, Solid.js. Well, on the React side, you have Remix, Next, Gatsby in the main ones. There's other small ones or other ones for special use cases. Then in the Vue world, you have Nux and GridSum. Okay, if you're talking about Solid, you have SvelteKit, Elder.js, and Jungle.js. And then if we're talking about Solid.js, they just came out with Solid Start, which borrows a lot of the ideas here. The only difference is that instead of having like a action, the same way you do here, you do have actions, but your actions are separate from your API route. So you can create like a specific function for a get, a put, or a delete, which that I kind of like. Although I do like how this works as well. Kind of torn between the two. Okay, Remix is now certainly growing on me. And then Angular, I always forget what the one for Angular is, but there is one now. Let me just see here. Let's take a look. Google it. Angular meta framework. Analog. Okay, so that's the Angular meta framework like this. And yeah, so those are your options. But hopefully now you have a better idea of how to use Remix. And again, if you ever want to deploy Remix, you can just look at the documentation. They have documentation on deployment where you can, and again, when you're first setting up your app, you can choose like, hey, if you're planning to deploy the Netlify or if you're planning to deploy the Vercel, it can give you a template that's already pre-made for deploying there. So that way you're good, and it'll have like a README in that template that'll walk you through the steps. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. My name is Alex Merced from AlexMercedCoder.dev. Leave a like on the video, leave a comment, have a great day, and enjoy. Merry Christmas. I'll see you all next year.